Ask the Messengers, the program that deals with substance abuse, real people telling real stories. Hosted by Pastor Lester Lewis, co-host Charlize Wilkerson and Leroy Carey. Produced by David Humphreys. Where there is addiction, there is a chance for recovery. We're trying to help save lives on Ask the Messengers.
Today on Ask the Messengers, our topic is heroin addiction, recovery, and prevention. Our guests include Maxine Willis, a certified prevention specialist specializing in youth drug prevention. Edward, a U.S. military veteran who returned home from Vietnam addicted to heroin and who has remained drug-free for the last 28 years. And Dennis, who has been drug-free for 14 and a half years, will tell us how peer pressure at the age of 16 helped him start to using heroin. LaShawn, our very own street reporter who was addicted to drugs, will tell her true story about chasing the dragon. And finally, Dr. Iffy will define drug addiction and discuss some of its main causes. It's all here on this episode of Ask the Messengers. And now, here's your host, Pastor Lester Lewis.
Welcome to the show. This show is exactly what the name says. It is real people sharing a real message. In fact, it was said that your mess can become your message. And so they're sharing, and these are not actors, these are not paid performers, these are individuals who actually live the lives and have a story to tell behind it. One of our topics today is drug addiction and the recovery process. So we're going to be talking to a few of our strong individuals who are in recovery, and they are former heroin addicts who will share their stories about their addiction and how it affected their families and much more. So listen, I want to go right into some questions, and if you don't mind, I'd like to start. Edward, listen, what made you begin using heroin?
Well, Pastor, at the time I was 18 in Southeast Asia, scared, and just thought God had forsaken me, and that's where it started for me. And I just thank God today that I'm clean, and I'm here with you guys discussing the fact that, you know, who's ever out there doesn't have to use.
Amen. Well, we're glad to see you because I heard it said that I'd rather be seen than viewed any day. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So listen. Also, Dennis, I just gotta know. Listen, what made you begin using?
I started using at the age of 16. It was peer pressure association, following other people that I didn't know that were getting high, and I thought it was fun. But it didn't last long.
All right. So listen, let me go back. Edward, how did your heroin use affect your family members and those, your friends and coworkers and all that good stuff? How did it affect them?
Well, Pastor, that didn't start until after I had come back from Vietnam, and I had come out of Colorado State. That's where I graduated. I started really getting off into it heavily in the early 70s. And what adverse effects it had on them was the lying that I was doing, the manipulating, and most of all, the fact that I wasn't living up to the potential that they had set for me.
All right. So now listen. Obviously, when you were using and it became a part of your life, and we've heard some horrifying stories about how people and individuals they went through some things. Let me ask you this question, Dennis. Have you ever had a horrifying experience as a result of your heroin use?
Yes, I have. I remember doing some drugs, and the reaction to the drugs had me paranoid, and I was tripping, almost losing my mind. I thought I would never gain it back. I started rationalizing and running around, acting crazy, and it scared me to death. One thing, though, you'll try to justify that it was just the wrong drugs, but it's no right drugs,
Right.
It's no right way to use.
Okay. Now, listen, I certainly don't want to leave her out of the conversation. LaShawn, listen, obviously from a woman's perspective, because it's not just men is addicted, women are addicted as well. Listen, did you ever have a horrifying experience as you were using?
Yes, but heroin wasn't my drug of choice. crack was, but I did try heroin, and it was very brief. It didn't take long for me to get sick. When I tried it, I was following some people. They had called it Chasing the Dragon, where they mixed the heroin and the crack together and smoke it. And what happened was the next day I woke up so sick that I was throwing up everywhere, didn't know what had happened to me. And I said I would never do that again. I started praying to God, Lord, please help me get through this.
Listen, we got more coming up. Listen, don't go anywhere. We got a great testimony for you. Watch this. We'll be right back.
It affected my family well, currently I'm separated from my wife and my children. I lost their trust. I've scared my family. Some of them have turned their backs on me and disowned me. And I'm just now building relationships back.
My family didn't trust me. They always they just didn't trust me. It was just a distrust there. And they was always, didn't want me around because I was always high.
But whatever the case is that once you get into it, it tends to escalate, because you don't know when to stop. Because the way we are defined addiction is that it's a behavioral thing. It's not just a pharmacological or a physical dependence on the drug. It's also that, but it's when your behavior is preventing you. You could not pull back. It's disrupting your livelihood. It's disrupting your family. But you keep using, whether it's the prescription medication or the illicit drug. You don't know when to. That's what we call addiction. So addiction is both physical dependent on the drugs, which is physical dependence is that if you stop to use, you become sick, which is you have nausea, that you feel like throwing up, you have diarrhea, you have sweating, you have difficulty sleeping, especially with the opioids. You have all these symptoms, ache, muscle ache, that tells your body, I need this medication.
Listen, Dennis, I got a question for you. Because I know there's some people out there listening, and obviously they may be in recovery or looking to get in recovery. Can you tell us and talk about your recovery process? I mean, because I think the best story is your story, the recovery process. And did you ever relapse?
Yes, I relapsed one time. I was clean from 72 to 83, and I happened to be working at I went through Harvard Light. They had a motivational program back then. NA, as far as I know, didn't start up in the Salvation Army. Got it in '74, and I went to school, became a counselor, was working down there, and what I found was the ultimate weapon is God and another recovering addict, you know, in the program. And after relapsing, you know, I got opportunity to, because we used to hold meetings back in '74 for NA, you know, just started taking off from my point of view in the '80s. But after I relapsed, I was introduced to NA again through my brother. He was sponsoring me and some other people, and just my personal experience. Yeah, when you relapse, you know, there ain't no wrong way to get clean. It just ain't no right way to use.
All right, all right.
You know.
Well, look, Dennis, obviously what you just said is so important. I think what you said is that, you know, you can't do it by yourself.
Right, right.
That you need help. You need help, and or if you want to do it and do it right, you got to make sure that you get some help. And so, Edward, listen, I also want to ask of you, sir, did you have any friends? Because I know that there's a lot of people, we're the blessed ones who are still here, but have you had any friends that use heroin or other drugs and that did not make it?
Yes, I had quite a few friends overseas that used and didn't make it back to the world, as we used to call it. Then upon coming back here, there were times when we would use with various people, and they would get high, and but they weren't actually friends. They were acquaintances, you know. To me, a friend wouldn't want another friend hurting his soul. You know what I'm saying? Right. But you know, through drug addiction, you know, it's a real painful area, you know, for the individual and then for their families. All right.
All right. Back to Dennis. Look, did you try to hide your addiction? And I think this kind of goes without saying, because there are many. I heard that there are many addicts among us that and because they're hiding in plain sight. Did you ever try to hide your addiction from family and friends?
Always. You know, I mean, you have to hide it, because the disease of addiction is total self-centeredness. And if somebody knew you were using, of course, you wasn't going to get a loan or any money or anything else, let alone maybe let it in the house. Remember, I started using at 15 years old, 15, 16 years old. And I remember the riots back then. And I remember losing some friends back then. I had a friend get killed up on Kenilworth, one OD. There was 6 of us. I'm the only one kind of left out of that. The rest of them died in some form of drug addiction. And I think about that today, and that gives me motivation and gratitude to stay clean. And it also keeps me going, too. But, yeah, you try to hide it. I remember when the Big Four used to stop us. I was 16, and they would look at your arms and whoop you.
Now let me ask you this real quick, because guess what? There's some people, I know this is gonna sound funny, who have no idea what the Big Four is. Can you explain what the Big Four?
Well, the Big Four was back with stress, back on the north end and different, back in the late 60s and early 70s. And the Big Four was like 4 police that would ride through the neighborhoods and stop you and search you, and they found something on you. I sat in the car one time, and they had me in the middle, and they seen the tracks, and they went to whipping me with drumsticks. And then they let me out in the middle of the street and told me thanks for helping me. And then a guy told me, he said, "You helping the police?" I said, "You think the police let you out in front of here if I was helping them? They'd be hit me down the street. Would you give me some credit?"
All right. Well, listen, we want to certainly thank you guys so much, Edward and Dennis, and thank you, LaShawn, for being on the show today. Listen, we got some great stuff happening, but listen, do not go anywhere. We're going to talk later with a lady who has been an advocate for drug prevention in the place where you probably least likely expected, in our school system. That's right, with our babies, with our children, in the educational realm. We're going to be right back. We've got more show coming, and again, thank you for your message. Thank you for your testimonies that you shared, and we just appreciate you. We'll be right back.
Addiction is a serious business. Once you get over to that side, it's difficult to come back. So it doesn't respect people. Anybody can be addicted to any of these opioids and have a struggle. It's not because they are bad. The person is not a bad person. The person is not is weak or not disciplined. It has nothing to do with any of this. How strong, how disciplined, pull yourself by the bootstrap or anything like that. It's a chemical imbalance in the brain that can take down anybody.
Stay tuned for more of Ask the Messengers.
Hi, I'm Ashley Greaser, the Office Manager at Premier Supportive Services. Here at Premier, we offer a variety of services that include residential service, 24-hour residential, attended care, semi-independent, as well as many other services. So if you know of anyone that has been involved in a car accident, we are located at 17555 James Cousin, Suite 2, or you can give us a call at 313-345-3668.
God's World, a Detroit institution at West 7 Mile and Schaefer, says get them while they last. The Old Bombers 2017 commemorative calendar is going fast. Get your church supplies, communion cups, tithe envelopes, Bibles, inspirational books by top authors, call in your orders at 313-862-8220. Shop online at godsworldsuperstore.org. God's World, for all your inspirational needs.
Welcome back to Ask the Messengers. I am Pastor Lester Lewis, your host for the show. Listen, we just got finished speaking and talking with some great people here, sharing their testimonies and their lives and what they've been through, their ups, their downs, their goods, their bads, but most of all, their recovery. And so we are thankful for their story. But our next guest, our next person that we have that we're going to speak with today, we're going to be talking from the side of prevention. Talking about how we can educate and share information so that addiction never comes into the picture. And so we have an advocate with us, someone who is advocating for drug prevention. Listen, and she is advocating in the public schools, in the school system. That's right. I know you didn't think about that. It was the babies and the school age. But yes, so she is here today, and her name is Maxine Willis. And Maxine, how are you today?
I am very excited to be part of this exciting show.
All right. Well, listen, I want everyone to know, Maxine, if you're wondering, she's got over 30 years of experience. We're certainly not trying to date you now, but she's got 30 years. So she is a veteran at this thing. And so, listen, we want to just get right into this. Listen, how did you get involved in the field of substance abuse prevention?
Oh, let me see here. How can I make a long story short? I basically started out as a teacher, as a matter of fact, a preschool teacher in the area where I was born and raised, which is a very rural farm area. And so I didn't really learn a lot about drugs and alcohol prevention. And moving later to the Detroit area, large urban area, began working with young people. It was at the beginning of that time that I was confronted with questions, concerns, and comments that young children had regarding alcohol and drugs. And as a young woman, as a young teacher, I didn't have a clue how to answer a child who says, my daddy got drunk last night and he jumped on my mom and he blacked her eye. And the next day, my dad looked at my mom and said, who did that to you? And the little kid looks at me and says, my daddy is crazy, isn't he? I wouldn't know what to say. I don't know. So, these kind of experiences continue to happen in my work with young children. So I met a friend who introduced me to the National Council on Alcoholism. And I started there as a volunteer. I went back to school in alcohol and drug studies so that I could learn more about alcohol and other drugs. And as a young teacher, I made a vow with the help of God that if he allowed me the opportunity, that I wanted to be a part of developing and creating a program that would help children at a very early age understand the dangers of drugs, gangs, and violence, and also to educate teachers and other healthcare providers so that no one finds themselves in the situation as I did as a teacher and didn't know how to respond.
All right, so it looks like your field of expertise came out of necessity.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, listen. So what organizations have you worked with, Maxine, with that it relates to prevention? What organizations have you been involved with?
Oh my goodness, I've worked again. I've been in the field of prevention since 1979.
Oh, wow.
Helped to co-create one of the first prevention programs in the country aimed at preschool age children called BABES, Beginning Alcohol Basic Education Addiction Studies. In that program, we were at that time from 1981. ABC World News Tonight found out what we were doing here with preschool age children, and they thought, what do you say to young kids about alcohol and drugs? But we created like a Sesame Street type model with puppet songs and stories, helping children understand how to feel good about themselves. So this program, again, took me into many schools throughout the Tri-County area. As a matter of fact, traveled throughout the country, training not only with children, but training others in how to use this model. So it was like being part of a dream that came true.
All right. Well, listen, obviously it is, I think that many people don't really realize that that children are almost the collateral damage of drug abuse and what can occur as a result of that. And so why is this so important? Because obviously this is a passion of yours.
It certainly is.
Why is it so important to start prevention efforts at such a young age?
Well, first of all, at ages 4, 5, and 6, children are just developing their own attitudes and ideas about themselves and the world around them. At no other time in a child's life is their brain going to be able to absorb information. So at that stage, a lot of times people thought, are you bombarding them with facts about alcohol and drugs?
Right.
But that wasn't the case at all. It's just starting at an early age, helping children develop social skills, helping them with their communication skills. Even the research says that when you develop programs that are interactive, participatory, helping young people to accept the things they cannot change and change the things that they can. It's basically helping them to understand the world around them, how to develop coping skills, to understand that there are things in life that happen to us that we can't change. So it's just a matter of helping them develop a solid foundation about who they are in the world around them.
All right. So listen, Maxine, can you give us some examples? Because you get me excited. I want to sit in the class. Can you give us some examples of some of the activities that you participate with the young children with as it relates to prevention?
Absolutely. Well, we have programs like, Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, where kids look in the mirror, say positive things about themselves. My husband is a music producer, so we created all kinds of songs. I love myself. Give yourself a hug. Dan Dirty Dinosaur says don't do drugs. It's helping children to understand how important our body is. We have body parts with the heart and the brain. They all talk to each other, and they talk about what happens to them when people abuse alcohol. We try to stay factual and non-judgmental in helping children to understand how drugs affect the body, but what they can do to give themselves that everlasting good feeling that no drug ever can.
All right. Well, listen, so what can parents and or caregivers do to help prevent their children from turning to drugs as an outlet?
One of the things that we created was called the Self-Esteem Camp, and we encourage children and families. One of the things that I'm so excited about now, and all of my work in working with children, but now I'm focusing on parent-child interactive activities. And the greatest thing parents can do is, first of all, is just to create a caring, loving environment. Our programs teach parents that you are your child's greatest prevention partner. Telling that child that I love you, that I may not like everything that you do, but there's nothing you can do to stop me from loving you. Talk with our children, encourage them to communicate, build their self-esteem, give them experiences that will help them feel good about who they are.
All right. Boy, I am excited right now. I tell you, I want to keep going, but we've got to stop for just a moment. Listen, I want you to stay tuned, but we've got some words coming up for you here. And so come on back, call a friend, tell somebody, tune in to Ask the Messengers.
The person at this point might be able to stop, but when you go over to what we call addiction, it's when you're using to your own destruction and you cannot stop. You lose your house, you lose your job, you're homeless, you can't pay your bills, none of your family members want you around, you still cannot stop.
Stay tuned for more of Ask the Messengers.
God's World, a Detroit institution at West 7 Mile in Schaefer, says get them while they last. The Old Bombers 2017 commemorative calendar is going fast. Get your church supplies, communion cups, tied envelopes, Bibles, inspirational books by top authors. Call in your orders at 313-862-8220. Shop online at God'sWorldSuperstore.org. God's World, for all your inspirational needs.
Hi, I'm Ashley Greaser, the Office Manager at Premier Supportive Services. Here at Premier, we offer a variety of services that include residential service, 24-hour residential, attended care, semi-independent, as well as many other services. So if you know of anyone that has been involved in a car accident, we are located at 17555 James Cousin, Suite 2, or you can give us a call at 313-345-3668.
Pastor Lewis here. We're back with Ask the Messengers and with our guest right now, Maxine Willis. And Maxine, we've got just a few minutes, and we want to share. Want to ask you about the importance of community in the whole effort of keeping and preventing children from turning to drugs. Can you share some of that information with us, please?
Absolutely. For many years, again, I've worked in going into the schools, going into boys and girls clubs and these sorts of things. But they say it takes a village to raise a child. So it's important that not only we provide school-based prevention and home prevention, but community-wide prevention. That they say it takes a village to raise a child, but the village is sick. The village needs to be healed.
Right.
So we have to provide awareness to the village, and that's what I'm excited about, and that's what my focus is on now. How do we create happy, healthy communities, one family, one block at a time, so that children can grow and be happy, safe, and free from drugs, gangs, and violence.
All right. Now, I don't want you to get out of here without asking you this question. In '81, you did a Say No to Drugs puppet show for former First Lady Nancy Reagan. How did that feel?
Oh, it was just surreal. It was just one of the most exciting opportunities and the experience that I'll never forget.
All right. Well, listen, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate you so much. And listen, to all of you who are watching and tuning in, listen, this show, absolutely, if this here is absolutely necessary. It is because our children are also being a part of what's going on. And so even though they may not be using, they also are affected by those who are using and abusing drugs. So we want to just ask you, and certainly in your heart, and search yourself and ask, how can I help? Maybe you can't get out in the street. Maybe you don't have the voice to speak publicly, but you can sow a seed, or you can give to the effort in which Ask the Messengers is doing. You can send any gift of any amount. You can go online, or you can do it by what they call snail mail. Send a check or a money order for just saying, hey, I want to help in some way, tangibly, and no gift is too small, and certainly no gift is too large. We absolutely need your help to stay on the air and to keep programming like this coming. So listen, today we have talked with individuals who were dealing with they're in recovery, and then we also talked about the prevention side and especially for our children. And we just want you to know that no matter what area of life that you come from, drugs can affect you in some type of way. But we also know that we pray, our prayer is that you would find a God of your own understanding that would help you to find that place of peace. Thank you so much for tuning in to Ask the Messengers. And until we meet again, I'm Pastor Lester Lewis. We'll see you soon.